evening, friends and neighbors. Or shall I say this afternoon?
Welcome to the Denver Broncos franchise on Madden 22. I'm your host, longtime listener. Be sure to drop a like, hit that subscribe button, and comment below. So we've been doing a couple of different franchises since Madden came out. We started one with the Raiders right when the game launched, and then realized that we would have to restart whenever the scouting update came out. So we killed that one and have been doing one with the Steelers. And the style of presentation that I did with the Steelers one was basically just, me playing the games live and doing commentary as I went, just kind of explaining my strategy and that sort of thing, which for me is way easier because I don't have to go in and edit content and do all that kind of fun stuff. But the challenge becomes it's a little bit harder to watch, admittedly. So we're going to go and start another one here, and this style is going to be very like highlight presentation kind of oriented. And what I mean by that is I will play the games and then go back and edit them so that you're only getting the impactful plays. And you're only going to see, and I'll do commentary that's kind of like an ESPN highlight reel, basically. Now, we're going to be the Broncos. The reason I chose the Broncos is basically I went onto YouTube, searched for Madden franchises, looked at playlists, and I didn't see any that were the Broncos. I didn't want to have some that were going to be basically just kind of a different version of the same thing other people are doing with the same team. So we're going to go with the Broncos. They're a team, and we'll talk about kind of some intriguing aspects of this team here shortly. Now, I don't like to stick with the default, team playbooks that they give you. So we're going to go I will select Ron Rivera because it's the closest one to the run balanced playbook that I prefer. So that's what you're seeing me do there. Defensively, we're going to stick with the one that Fangio has got. It's a 3-4 style. That's what the Broncos are running. We are going to continue to do that throughout the entire franchise. That's not my style. I prefer a 4-3, but we're going to go with it. And then the other thing that this franchise is probably going to do from a long-term strategy perspective is emphasize a run-heavy offense, which is pretty normal for what the Broncos like to do. They're a zone run concept that's had success over the course of time. We are playing on all Madden, as you can see there at the very top. And then let's see what else we're going to do. We're going to leave coach firing on. And then what else? We break out scenarios, yes. Quarter lengths, I'm going to do 12 minutes so that the stats end up being fairly realistic. But again, the games that you see are going to be shortened down to highlight reels, so it's going to be all good from a watchability perspective. And then we do not want tutorials. I think that's good. We're going to manage practice reps too. So I think we're all set to basically jump into this one. I'm not going with the default coach of Fangio. I don't like doing those. It just seems kind of silly. When you can create one, why not do it? Evan Milligan is not my real name, but he's my online, alias, I guess. So we'll get in here, we'll get things saved, and then I'm going to go through a few things that we want to cover from a, housekeeping perspective before we jump into some games. All right, first, let's talk sliders. So I don't necessarily enjoy the level of development that you see typically with especially certain positions. So we are going to leave a lot of these the same, but we're going to adjust tight ends a little bit. We're going to adjust fullbacks a little bit. And then the offensive line, I feel like those guys just rarely progress at a pace that I feel is realistic. So we're going to beef up all of those, particularly center. I don't feel like they tend to, you know, improve very quickly. Defensive ends will do a little bit. Defensive tackles, we're going to beef up pretty good. Middle linebacker, I will do a little bit, but not a ton, because I usually control the middle linebacker, so they'll get better just from me controlling them. And then we're going to improve corners a little bit, and then free safeties and strong safeties a little bit as well. Kickers, we're cranking this baby, and punters, because it doesn't matter that much anyway, but that's what we're doing on that perspective. Now, for the gameplay AI sliders, this is hard to get just right, because all Madden has some things that make it really quirky, but the reason that I'm doing a lot of this is to try and make the game as realistic as possible from a stats perspective. So I turn QB accuracy down pretty good so that we have occasional bad throws, but not a ton of them. We'll turn pass blocking up just a hair. We'll leave catching where it is so that occasionally we've got an accurate throw that gets dropped anyway. Run blocking needs to come way down to be realistic. I don't remember how far. We're going to start at like 25. Fumbles needs to come up to about 65 to be realistic. Now, this one's also kind of touchy because on all Madden, the QB rarely makes bad throws. So we're going to crank up defense reaction time, crank interceptions way down, and then coverage way up. We will still have very few pass breakups even with those settings, and then we won't get a ton of interceptions. So that's kind of what we're shooting for. Tackling, we're going to turn up just a little bit. QB accuracy for the CPU has to come way down. It's stupid how often we'll be playing like a terrible quarterback who completes 20 passes in a row against us, and it's not because we're being like aggressive with man coverage, and that's like, it's just we can drop 8 guys back in coverage and they still pick us apart like Joe Montana. It's ridiculous. Pass blocking will turn up a little bit. Wide receiver catching we will turn down some. Run blocking for the AI is going to go up to 65. We'll leave fumbles where it is. Their pass reaction time, I think, needs to go up as well. So we'll turn those up some, but as a counter to that, we'll turn interceptions down, and I don't remember exactly where we want to land this. Let's do 30 and kind of see how it's going for a while. Power, we turn up a little bit. Accuracy comes down. Same with punting, except for punt accuracy, we'll crank up. Kickoff power goes up a hair. Injuries goes up to 50. Any higher than that, it can get like almost unplayably bad. Penalties, we're cranking. It's still gonna, like, even with these cranked all the way, we will still be the least penalized team in the league. Intentional grounding is on. Roughing the passer, I think we usually crank this one too. So cranking those just creates just enough penalties to where they can be a factor throughout the game. Not like a huge factor, but sometimes they actually, can kill a drive or whatever. So that's what we're going to do on that front. Now I want to show you the roster, because there's going to be a lot going on here that we'll kind of see unfold as this franchise develops, and I want to give you a sense of where things are for starters. Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback, but he is in the last year of his contract. He'll be okay for us for this 1 year, but we've got to find an answer there. So it's highly probable that we try to draft a QB in the upcoming NFL draft. 28 years old. He's a 78 overall, so he's not terrible, but he's definitely not our franchise quarterback of the future. And Drew Lock is also not that guy. At halfback, we've got Melvin Gordon, who's 28 years old, so he's getting to the end of his rope as a running back. But we already have Javonte Williams, the rookie out of Carolina, 21 years old, and I believe a hidden dev trait. We'll take a look at that just to confirm. Yep. And he's, power back archetype. He's fairly elusive anyway and not a terrible receiver. So he's fairly well rounded, and I think he's going to be our running back for a long time here in the future. We got to lock him up for, about 7 or 8 years total to get max value out of him, but I think we can do it. Fullback, all I will say there is this guy's not very good. I like to use a fullback, so we will try and find a way to improve there. Wide receiver, we've got Cam Sutton, who's okay. Tim Patrick is 27 years old, so he might still have a few years left in him, and he's an 80 overall, so he's solid. I like the height that we get from these two guys on the outside, so we can occasionally throw up a jump ball and have some confidence that they can win those battles. And then Jerry Jeudy is just 1 year out of Alabama, 22 years old, 80 overall, and I believe a star dev trait. Hamler is okay, and he's young. He is injured as of the start of the franchise here because we did turn on the pre-existing injuries or whatever, or just went with the live roster. Tight end Noah Fant is solid and going to be pretty good for a while. And then Albert O, I believe it's pronounced Okwebunam. He's okay, 23 years old, 72 overall. So that's a pretty decent tight end core right there. They're not the greatest at blocking, but they're pretty good pass catchers and give us some options there. I will try and add a third guy that's a pretty good, possession tight end / good run blocker kind of thing, to shore up that situation for a while, but we're pretty good shape there. Now, left tackle, we've got Bulls, who's good. He's 29 years old, and then we don't really have a replacement option kind of in the hopper, but we're solid there for the time being. Then you've got Reisner at left guard, who is okay. He's 26 years old. Then you've got this dude, 22 years old, 72 overall, and a star dev trait. So at left guard, we're okay for now and have a long-term answer kind of there waiting to take over that position. Now we've got Cushenberry at center, who's only 23, but he's also a star dev trait. So I like what we've got going on the interior of the offensive line. Then you've got Glasgow at right guard, who is hurt. So Miners is going to have to start, and he's a rookie, only 22 years old, but hidden dev trait. So he's going to get a lot of playing time this year that should help him progress and be a decent option for us next year. And if we look at Glasgow, I wonder if he's in the last year of his contract. He's been in the league 5 years, so it's a strong likelihood. And no, we've got him for another 2 years. So depending on how Miners does this year, we might actually look to trade Glasgow and just get like a mid-round pick or some kind of value back from him. It might be hard because his contract is a little bit of a beast, but we'll see what we can do there. Right tackle, we've got Massey, who's okay, but he's 32, so he's going to start nosediving from an ability perspective, and we do not have a solution behind him, so we'll have to address that. Left end, Draymond Jones will hold that down for a little while. He's okay. Now, again, this is a 3-4 style, so we've got a lot of big bodies here on the ends. Shelby Harris at right end is still pretty good, but we don't have a long-term answer here. You've got, I don't know how you pronounce this dude's last name, Ajim. 1 year out of Arkansas. He's a normal dev trait, so he is not the answer long-term. Right tackle, we only have one man on the roster, Mike Purcell. He's not very good, and he's 30 years old. So we've got to get a stud nose tackle type guy somehow. But with the fact that we've got to address quarterback, I don't know if we're going to get somebody that's like top-notch, ready to step in and be fairly dominant. anytime soon, so we'll see what we can do there. Left outside linebacker, we're okay. Malik Reed isn't terrible, but he's 25 years old and he's a normal dev trait, so he'll be serviceable for a couple more years, but I'm not crazy about what we've got there. Middle linebacker, we've got a bunch of guys, as is pretty typical with 3-4 defenses, but nobody that's like, oh man, yeah, this is my long-term answer. Like these three guys are all normal dev trait. Browning is a normal dev trait. So there's nobody here that I'm like thrilled that we've got. And then Johnson is a good player, but he's 29 years old and he's hurt right now. So we've got injuries with our top two guys on the depth chart. Kenny Young is going to be our go-to guy for the time being because of the injuries, and he's only a 73 overall, so that could be an issue. At outside linebacker on the right side, it's Bradley Chubb, and it's going to be for a while because he's only 25, and he's already an 84 overall, and I believe a star dev trait. Yep. So he'll be fine. Corner. This is kind of interesting here, the situation. We've got Bryce Callahan, who's 29. He's an 86 overall. At 29 years old, at corner, you're pretty much going to start getting worse, and he's injured anyway. Then you've got Fuller, who's okay at 82 overall, but he's 29. Then you've got Surtain, the rookie out of Alabama. This guy is going to be our anchor at the cornerback position for a while. He's already an 80 overall, and he's got the hidden dev trait. So I like what we've got there. Then you've got Darby, 27 years old. We'll hopefully get another couple of years out of him. And then Ojemudia, 23 years old, 75 overall, and he's injured. So injury's a little bit of a factor for us coming into the season, but we might get some of those guys back as the season goes on. We'll look at the injury report and see what the story is. Justin Simmons is going to be our free safety for a little while. In fact, let's look at his contract and see what the deal is, because I hope we don't have to re-sign him anytime soon. It'd be nice if he was already locked up. Yeah, we've got him locked up for 4 years. He'll be 31 by the time that's up, and I think we're kind of okay with that situation for the time being. Stearns, the rookie behind him, is a 69 overall with a normal dev trait, so he's not going to be a long-term answer, but he's a guy that we can use for a while, at least as a backup. Strong safety is Kareem Jackson. He's solid, but he's 33. And then Jamar Johnson, another rookie, backing him up, also normal dev trait. So kind of similar situations going on at free safety and strong safety, with the only difference being Jackson is 33, and that is well beyond the time frame where I generally start looking to move on from guys. Usually it's about the age of 30 where I feel like the value you get for those guys, they cost so much, and it's hard to justify hanging on to those kinds of veterans um, at the expense of long-term success and staying young uh, and keeping the salary cap kind of respectable. So McManus at kicker, I don't like spending a ton of money on kickers, and he's 30 years old, so he's probably getting paid more than I would like to pay a kicker. Um, So let's look at his contract. Of course, we've got him for 4 years and paying him like $4 million a year basically, which I just think is stupid. I don't think kickers are worth that much. So unfortunately, I don't really like that situation, but at least we don't have to think about it for a while. And then Sam Martin, the veteran punter, not super concerned about the punter position because it's not that big of a deal. So that's what we've got going on in terms of who is actually on the roster. And then if we look at those injuries, this is going to be key going into the season as far as, like, do we have guys that we might be able to get back this year? Callahan is a no. He's out for basically almost a whole calendar year. We might be able to get Brett Jones back somewhere during the season, but 14 weeks in puts us at like week 11 in the regular season, and I don't know if that's even worth bringing him back off of IR. We won't be getting Jewell back. We won't be getting Johnson back. Glasgow's a no. Like, none of these guys could even potentially come back. Ojemudia could there late in the season. And then Mintz, who cares? He's only 62 overall, but he will likely be eligible to come back off of IR. So we've got a lot of guys that we're going to be missing this year. So we need to try and see if we can get healthy going into next season, which usually happens the way injuries work out in Madden. So I'm not super concerned about it long term. But this is a team that I expect to compete this year. We'll probably sniff the playoffs. The way I intend to do gameplay is, like I said, what you're going to see is going to be highlight style reels of the games that I do play. And then if I win 2 games in a row, we will sim until we lose. And the objective there is I don't want it to be where like I find ways to win just because it's a video game and all of a sudden this team is like 14-3 this year because I just don't lose very often. So we're going to try and kind of keep the win-loss realistic by simming after we've won 2 games in a row. We will sim until we lose. And again, we'll show you the games that I play, and then we will give you recaps of the box scores of the games that I sim. So at least you'll kind of know what's going on from a statistical perspective and that sort of thing. So that's, I think, all of the housekeeping. So with that said, let's dive into some of these weekly activities going into the preseason and kind of see what's going on with some of these little cutscenes and whatnot. All right, so Javonte Williams is eager to learn more. Going to spend some time with him. I want immediate impact. Why would I say long-term development? Let's focus on the present. Make him as good as he can be right now. So this might give him like an instant boost instead of like XP gains or something. I'm not sure. But we'll see how that unfolds. And then, honestly, I did that because I expect him to get a lot of reps this year anyway. Scouts, I will go ahead and say right now, I am not a fan of the new scouting mechanics. You lose a lot of control. Even though it's like easier to manage because it's a little bit less hands-on, you end up with so many guys like prospects that you just have no idea what you're about to draft. So it's kind of annoying in that regard, but bottom line is what we're going to do is for our national scout, I think our priority is going to be QBs. So we're going to hire Kenny Ramsey as the national scout. Then for our tier 2 scout, I don't think there are any like glaring issues on the offense that we need to address right away, except for perhaps right tackle. I am more concerned about defensive tackle, and naturally there won't be any D tackle. Okay, there's one. However, I think the key for us being successful in the short term is going to be beefing up the offensive line as much as possible and just running the football successfully. So let's go with this guy. He gives us 2 positions where he's got expertise. So even if it's like, part of the country where they don't have a lot of right tackle prospects, but they've got a handful of left tackles, we'll just scout left tackles and move them to right tackle. It's not that hard of a change, and it doesn't impact their overall. So that's what we'll do there. Okay, now, defensively, let's look at outside linebackers is probably one that we want to address. I definitely need a defensive tackle. Let's go ahead and find one. Are you kidding me? There's none. So we got to go back to my scouts, fire this guy. Excuse me. And now, free agents. Let's go down to the tier 2s and hire that defensive tackle specialist. Now, Tier 1, let's find somebody that can cover tackles. And I honestly think, let's look at corners, I guess. You always want to be ready to draft a corner. If there's a stud there, that's a position that I feel like is hard to go find somebody that's really good. We need somebody that can scout tackles. Are you going to tell me this is typical Madden. There are no tackle specialists in the entire free agent pool of scouts. So I guess we'll just look for a middle linebacker, and we'll have to get a tackle in free agency because it's going to be really hard to draft a tackle without anybody scouting them that knows what the heck they're doing. I mean, we might be able to, depending on how deep the class is, but that's pretty frustrating. Oh, wait. I need to assign those scouts to regions. So, go back in. So, scouts. Alright, so assign this guy to national. Defensive tackles being my second priority. You're going to the southeast to comb through all those SEC studs. Middle linebacker, you go to the northeast, get somebody out of Penn State or Ohio State. Left outside linebacker, we'll go central, and then for corners, we'll go west. Doesn't really matter that much because you don't know which regions are going to be deep at any specific position. Another thing I don't like about the new mechanics. You're just completely guessing when you're going into this. It's just kind of frustrating. Alright, so we're going to sim through the preseason. There's no reason for you to see this stuff. What I will do, though, is we'll go through each week and kind of show you the results, just so we kind of have an idea of what our team is doing from a performance standpoint. And then we'll try and get one game in this episode and kind of see how it goes. Alright, so we simmed through that first preseason game against the Vikings and actually beat them 37-31, high-scoring affair. Which ultimately is not really what we want to see. Well, Melvin Gordon apparently kind of had a bust with Williams here, so that's not what we wanted to see. But, okay, he gets 2,500 XP, so that's cool. That might give him one player upgrade, so we'll see. Now, yeah, let's actually go and check that out, and then we will move through the next week. So Jerry Jeudy gets an upgrade. We're going to emphasize route running. It's the scheme fit, and that's kind of what we want to mostly stick with for the most part. So that's it. Let's get through. Actually, let's go look at the stats from that game and just kind of see what unfolded. It's only the preseason, so we don't put too much stock in it, but you know, the reality is it's important to at least kind of know what our weaknesses might be going into the season. So the box score might give us some indication of that. So Bridgewater was actually really good. Drew Lock was also really good. We had 5 passing TDs on the day. And then we did a pretty good job stopping the pass, as you can see here. So that's a good sign. Running the football, they just ran it all over us. Holy moly. And we did not run it very well. So that's kind of backwards of what we want to see offensively. But at least it shows that we've got some, you know, flexibility. Look at Albert O. Holy crap. What a day. Just absolutely dominant. 12 catches, 153 yards, and 3 TDs. That's insane. Defensively, how did we do as far as sacks and such? We had 2. Not the greatest. And then interceptions, we had 1, I think. Middle linebacker. So, that's what we got going on in week 1 of the preseason. Let's see what happens week 2 against the Seahawks. Alright, so we spanked the Seahawks 28-3, as you can see there. So let's go in, look at the box score, and see exactly what went down here, because that was a pretty good throttling. And kind of unexpected. Although the Seahawks have been a disappointment in real life this year. So Bridgewater again was sharp. Drew Lock again was pretty sharp. We just shut down the passing attack altogether. Holy moly. Good job defense. Now let's see how we ran the ball. Much better from Gordon. Boone got some carries. Javonte Williams, a little bit sluggish there, 3.5 yards a carry. We want to see that number come up. But then we also shut down their running game. So, like, we just absolutely dominated with our defense in this one. No big numbers that jump off the page here from a receiving perspective. But again, our quarterbacks were efficient in this one with really good QB ratings, which we like to see. Sacks, we ended up with 2 again. And then interceptions, we ended up with 1 again. And this time another middle linebacker, but it was Kenny Young. So, again, good job by the defense. We pick up our second win in a row here in the preseason. And now let's just look real quick. I think there was an update from a mentor perspective or something, or camp standout. Let's see what's going on with this one. So let's see. Bradley Chubb, strong camp, build on, yada yada. Let's go with play recognition. We want to improve his play recognition. Tackling, I'm not super worried about from him. But that might help us in the passing attack on plays where he's not blitzing off the edge. So good little boost there. And then let's, before we move along here, see what we've got going on from a upgrades perspective to the players. Nothing super flashy here. Nate Hairston. I will say with corners, I always go with the slot upgrade because if you look at the upgrades that it usually gives you, it typically also benefits the man coverage overall, and sometimes you get 2 overall upgrade on the man, which is exactly what happened here. He went from 69 to 71 and only went up 1 on slot, even though that's the one that we were focusing on. So a little bit of long-term strategy there for you. It doesn't help your zone coverage usually that much, but it's better than the alternatives if you ask me. So we've got a couple people that were injured short term but back. So I do actually want to look at the injury report just to see if there's anybody that has been injured these last couple games that like just happened. And I don't see any new ones on the list. So that's good. All right, so I will burn through. Actually, no, we've got staff points to spend. I do want to show you the staff like talent tree or whatever and talk through my strategy to get through these upgrades. So on the head coach page, the ones that I care about are right here. Additional focus player. Now, I screwed up, and apparently I took the player growth one, which I thought would be on this tree, but it's not. So we have to spend 10 points there, then 10, 10, 10. So 40 points will get us here, and then these each are 20. So 100 points would finish the ones that I really care about on this tree. The other one that I care about is over here, contracts. 20 points each, but you get 5% discounts to re-sign players under 80, and then 85, and then 90 for the additional tiers. So that helps save you money in your salary cap. So those 60 points, in my book, are 60 points very well spent because it helps you keep your team together. This is going to be where we will spend our first 20 points because I want to have this stuff lined up by the time we have got to start renegotiating contracts in the middle of the season with guys that we want to bring back. I want that 5% discount. So we're going to start with those and then go over to that player progression one and get those extra guys added to the XP boosts from training. All right, we won again. And again, putting up a bunch of points in the process. So, a 38-24 win over the Rams, who, their defense is supposed to be pretty darn good. So that's an impressive preseason by this Broncos team. And it kind of scares me because now if I suck, it just kind of exposes my inability to apparently manage this personnel. But Teddy Bridgewater, another very solid day. He's not throwing for a ton of yards, but he's efficient. 3 TDs, no picks. He was just outstanding in the preseason. Stafford was all right. Wolford was not very good, and then Drew Lock was not very sharp. But he didn't get sacked. He didn't turn the ball over. He just wasn't completing a very high percentage of passes. He only threw 6 passes, so I'm not holding that against him at that point. Gordon ran the ball pretty well. We did a good job slowing him down. Javonte Williams still. Now he's in there basically in our power run formations. So maybe when you sim, that guy doesn't generally break a lot of big ones because that's just how the coding is done. I'm not sure, but I want to see him get that average up as we get into the regular season. Receiving, nothing that really stands out here. Defense, how do we do for sacks? I want to see some more sacks from this team. And that's not the answer, guys. 2 sacks. Again, I want to see an average of closer to 3. And then Kyle Fuller had the interception this time. So a 3-0 preseason, very promising. But again, we're in the division with the Chiefs, the Raiders, Chargers, who, the Chargers for whatever reason in Madden have not been very good in the franchises that I've done so far. But it's going to be tough for us to win this division. There's no question about that. We've got to cut one player. This guy, I don't even know why he's on the roster even in real life. He's probably a long snapper. We are going to go ahead and just cut him, free up the cap space, and that's all we'll need to do there. So nothing super noteworthy on that front. And then we'll see who this player upgrade is, and then we will go through our depth chart before we start game 1 of the regular season. So what do we want to do here? 62 as a pass protector is pretty light. Even though we're going to be a run-first kind of mentality, if you're going to be a starter, I need your pass protection to be at least 65. It doesn't need to be crazy high, because even when I do pass, it's going to be somewhat of a West Coast mentality. Get rid of the ball quickly, just get it in the hands of somebody, and get a few yards. Hopefully you get some run after the catch, and that's where you make up a lot of your gains. Occasionally we'll take shots downfield, but not very often. So now we've got one guy coming back from injury. What I want to do is look at, actually, you know what, we'll look at the depth chart here in a second after I sim the bye week in case there's anybody that's injured that comes back for week 1. All right, so here we are. We're going to start the year against the Giants. We're on the road. They've got a decent defense. Their offense is not very good, so we'll hopefully be able to pick up a win in this one. But before we get into the fun stuff, let's take a look at some of these last-minute housekeeping items from the preseason. So Bradley Chubb, looking to make an impact this year, had a good camp. And he's got a breakout scenario in the works. He needs some tackles for loss or sacks. It says against the Rams. They always screw that up. I imagine that is something that goes into play this first week against the Giants. Now, for a season goal, remember, we're not going to be playing every game. So the fact that I have to simulate some and I lose control there, we're going to be conservative here and just say 7 wins is our goal. Now, realistically, our goal is to make the playoffs, and I think that we will, but I'm not going to do that risk for 2 staff points. We'll start with a pretty conservative objective of 7 wins. And hopefully next year we feel comfortable saying, yeah, we're going to make the playoffs this year. So, all right, for the draft class, we are going to just do auto-generated. And that actually gives us something else to look at here in this episode. So this might actually be a little bit of a long episode, but we'll still try and get one game covered. Future episodes will likely be 2 episodes per, or 2 games per episode. So there's a stud QB that's going to go in the top 5, and then you've got 3 more potential first rounders. I'm not going to look at these guys in, detail for right now, but just kind of want to show you where we think the class is deep or thin, etc. So at running back, you've got 5 guys that are like late first round, early second round type projections. So there's potential there that maybe we get somebody in the second round, but it's not super likely because we have other gaps that we need to fill. Wide receiver, there's 1 pretty sure first rounder, and then a bunch of first or second round kind of guys. So there's some depth there, but nobody that's like a absolute stud standout. Tight end is a couple of guys that could be pretty good. Left tackle, you've got a stud, and then you've got another sure first rounder, and then it's pretty thin. Really thin at left guard. Like, no even potential first round kind of guys. Talent at center is hard to judge sometimes. Even though it says second or third round projections, these guys could be pretty good, but there's just not usually a lot of emphasis on guards. Pretty thin at right guard. Come on, have a bunch of right tackles. You've got 2 studs and then some second, third round kind of guys. So this stinks because I kind of want to draft a right tackle, but it's not going to happen in the first round. And, we just kind of have to hope that one of these guys has some redeeming qualities that maybe we draft in like the third round and get somebody that we can use long term. Left end, pretty thin. Right end, there's some depth there. A lot of depth at right end, actually. Defensive tackle, very thin. 1 first rounder, and then it's, a bunch of like fringe second round guys, so that's no good. Left outside linebacker, a couple of first rounders. I like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 potential first round guys, so we might be able to get somebody there, which we kind of need. We've got Bradley Chubb, but another outside linebacker wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for us, but it's not a super priority. Corner, 4 first rounders, and then 3 first or second rounders, so there's some depth there. Not much at free safety, not much at strong safety. So there's no one position that's like, oh man, there's a ton there that I can remember. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this year in the draft, but we'll learn more about that as we go. So that's your first glance at what's on the horizon from a draft class perspective. Is there anything else that we need to cover before we get into the action here? Yes, opening day key to victory. It's going to come down to dominating offense, and we are going to do this by running the football. So we're going to emphasize the run with this team. We got to get 150 yards and beat the Giants. I'm pretty sure we can get the 150 yards on the ground because we are going to be a run-first mentality. A lot of the play calls that we make out of the huddle, especially on first and second down, vast majority of them are going to be run plays. We might audible depending on what the defense is throwing at us, but we've got to commit to the ground game because I don't want Teddy Bridgewater making a bad throw that gets picked off. Those kind of game-changing plays are what we've got to avoid. Ball control is going to be our strategy. Now, going into this weekly strategy page is where we'll kind of emphasize some of this stuff. Defensively, I think we need to worry more about stopping Saquon Barkley for pretty obvious reasons. If you look at their play calling tendencies, they throw it a lot. So I'm actually going to stick with this defend deep pass. That's going to help our secondary be sort of self-sufficient. And then what I will do to try and stop Saquon Barkley is call a lot of defensive, decisions that should, kind of keep him in check. Now we're going to go half pads from now on to try and keep our team as fresh as possible, and we are splitting reps. That combo, you can just pretty much set it and forget it, and you'll be fine. Offensively, we are going to try and run inside. That's going to be the one that we're going to emphasize. You get the blocking, you get carrying boosts, ball carrier vision doesn't really matter, and trucking, which I like to use that move a lot, especially because I want to try and be running north and south as much as possible. So I like that one. Did we already change this to half pads? We did not, so glad I remembered to do that. And then for the team profile, we are going to always, for the most part, be taking one interception and then get 15 first downs, rush for 150, and get 3 sacks. Those are pretty much our standard selections on this list, with the exception of maybe some games where we don't think that the sacks and the interceptions are as relevant. If it's a team that I know likes to run the football a lot, then maybe we mix that up a little bit, but we'll see. But that's good for now. And then just kind of noteworthy down here, the focus players are Surtain, Williams, and then I put Miners on there. I forget who they had instead. It was like the strong safety rookie that we've got, but I want Miners to develop with that hidden dev trait. I'm hoping that these 3 guys become rock stars for us. These 2 pretty much will. Miners is going to take a little bit of time to develop. So that's the situation on the training and strategy front. I do want to show you the depth chart before we jump into game number 1 of the franchise series. And actually, for those of you who might be a little bit concerned about this and are also following that Steelers franchise, I'm going to continue to do that one, but this one is going to get a little bit more emphasis because it takes a lot more hands-on effort to do the editing of the content. So Javonte Williams getting an upgrade. That's good to see. We're going to emphasize the power back because I want him to just be able to run guys over. Tim Patrick gets one. I want physical. When I use him, a lot of what I'm going to be doing is, quick drag routes and stuff like that. But then the occasional deep ball, I need him to be able to win those jump balls. That's where he can make the biggest impact for this team in the short term. All right, so I think we're good everywhere except for a look at the depth chart. So obviously Bridgewater is the starting quarterback. Then at running back, it's Gordon and Williams. And they will split a lot of carries depending on the formation, as you'll see here shortly. Beck is the fullback. Wideout is fairly straightforward. Sutton, Patrick, and Judy, with Hinton being the 4th receiver there. Fant and Akwegbunam at tight end. Left tackle is Bulls. Left guard is going to be Reisner. And then they've got Miners backing him up. And the reason is they've got Moody starting at right guard. I think we're going to change this and let the rookie earn his stripes at the NFL level as the starter. He's going to take some thumps, I'm sure, but I think it's the right move. So we're going to do that. And then Cushenberry will start at center. Miners is going to bump up here into that starting role. It's a little bit of a risk because he's definitely not as polished. If we look over here, his pass blocking is not nearly as good as Moody, and his run blocking is not quite as good. But, again, I'm hoping that he can develop quickly in that role by just getting a ton of reps. So we'll see how that goes. Massey at right tackle. Left end is Jones. Right end is going to be Harris. D tackle is a mess. You've got Purcell. And then, it looks like where did this guy come from? He wasn't on the depth chart, so I wonder if they auto-signed him, and that's why we had to cut a player. But I don't want him as the second guy on the depth chart. Even though he's a natural defensive tackle, we've got other guys that can do the job better, and we are going to use them instead. So left outside linebacker is going to be Malik Reed. Weatherly is not a bad option behind him as far as the difference in their overall, but we're a little bit weak there. We're weak at middle linebacker. Kenny Young and Micah Kaiser are going to have to step it up this year and make some plays. Bradley Chubb, I need you to be a rock star. Corner, it's Fuller, Surtain, Darby, and Ford. That's not a terrible core, but we don't have any, guys that we can just put on an island. Surtain might be that guy eventually, but he is not yet. But the good news is we've got a pretty good couple of safeties that can help with that situation. So I think we'll be okay against the pass. Kicker and punter don't matter. Kick returns. Deontay Spencer I'm going to put in front of Kendall Hinton just because he's got more speed, and I think that's a pretty important factor when it comes to returns. Same thing as punt returns go. Did I have that right at kick return? I thought I did. Yeah. And then what else? Kickoff specialist and long snapper don't matter. Third down back is going to be Gordon. Williams is just not that polished as a receiver yet, so we might need to work on that attribute a little bit to make him a little bit more well-rounded, but he's okay for now. He's going to be the power back, getting the ball in, third and short situations. He's going to probably be the guy on the field because we'll probably come out in big sets and just run it up the middle to try and get the first down. Slot receiver will be Judy and then Hinton after him. Defensive end in rushing situations on the left side is going to be Bradley Chubb, even though he's a right outside linebacker. I don't get it, but whatever. And then they put Draymond Jones at right end in those situations, even though he's a natural left end. I don't get it, but we'll just leave it the way it is. Harris will be the D tackle in those scenarios, or the nose tackle, or one of the D tackles. I think that's if we're going in like a nickel formation, that's the set that we'll have. Kenny Young and Micah Kaiser are the sub linebackers. That's a concern because we're just not very good there, and that's basically in pass coverage kind of formations like the nickel. Those are the guys that are on the field, and they're just not very good. And then slot corner will be Darby and Ford. He's not very good as a slot corner, but as the second guy, basically our fourth corner, I'm not super concerned with that, but it is, potentially an issue from time to time. So that does it for all of the preseason housekeeping and upgrades and mechanics that we needed to kind of discuss for the series. So I hope that y'all are hyped and ready for the Denver Broncos franchise here on the channel to get kicked off. So stand by, and we will be heading out to MetLife Stadium to take on the Giants. And here we go out to MetLife Stadium, home of the Giants, to take on the New York Giants squad that is coming into this season probably with, limited expectations to say the least. They've got the weapon in Saquon Barkley who can do it all when he's healthy at least. Daniel Jones has to prove himself at the NFL level. He's got some wideouts that are capable, pretty solid tight end in Evan Ingram, but I think this is a team that Denver is going to have a pretty good chance of coming away with a win against. We'll see how things go here in week 1 of the NFL season. And Brandon McMahon is going to kick things off, sends it deep, kicking with the wind here. And this one is going to go out the back of the end zone for a touchback. And the Giants will start 1st and 10 from the 25. You see Daniel Jones lead the offense onto the field. Again, we kind of talked about the fact that he is going to have to prove himself at this level. Running the ball is going to be key, and that's a good start for them there.
as it's a handoff to Barkley. He's up the middle for 5 yards. Now we'll look at the inactives there. A couple of key guys for the Broncos going to be out for the season, including their top 2 linebackers on the depth chart. Now 3rd and 4, they swing it out to Saquon Barkley. Looks like he's got the first down, but there is a flag, and it is going to be roughing the passer against Denver, and you'll tack 15 yards onto that. And now later in the drive, 3rd and 12 from the 49. Tons of time to throw. Daniel Jones looking, can't find anyone, is eventually going to get brought down by Malik Reed. First sack of the season for the Broncos. That would bring up 4th down and 22. And the Giants are going to punt it away. It's Deontay Spencer back to receive. He's got it at about the 19. Gets upfield, picks up just a few yards, and the Broncos are going to start 1st and 10 from the 24. And it's Teddy Bridgewater at the helm. He was outstanding during preseason, and they just look for him to basically be a game manager for them this year, take care of the football. This is a team that is going to want to run the ball, and starting things off, it is on the ground with the rookie Javonte Williams. He goes right side, picks up about 4, and that's the start for the Broncos. You see the draft class there, as Javonte was an early 2nd-round pick, with Patrick Surtain being their first pick overall. Now it's Melvin Gordon on 2nd down and 6. Catches the pass out in the flat, reaches for the first down, and they move the chains. Now 2nd and 2 later in the drive. It's Gordon again. They just hand it off and pick up the first down. Move those chains yet again. Now 2nd and 9. Bridgewater looking to throw. He's going to fling it outside to Jerry Jeudy. We've got a late flag coming in here, and we'll see what it is. And it is going to be another roughing the passer, this time against the Giants, and that is going to put Denver rather, into field goal range. Now 2nd and inches at the 23. They swing it outside to Melvin Gordon. Fights off a tackler, stays on his feet, and is all the way down to the 12-yard line. A pickup of 11. Later in the drive, 2nd and 7. It's Javonte Williams trying to get to the end zone, but is brought down just shy. That would set up a 1st and goal, and they are going to punch it in on the next play. So Javonte Williams getting his first NFL touchdown on the first drive of the season. So a great start for Denver as they force a punt, then they come down and get a touchdown of their own. The roughing the passer penalty was probably key there to get them going down there into deep Giants territory. It was 10 plays, 71 yards, took over 5 minutes, and that's the kind of possession that the Denver Broncos want to see all year long. Now 2nd and 7, it's Jones hitting Sterling Shepard. That's going to be good for a first down. Then it's 3rd and 9. He's looking to throw, has plenty of time, had a man open but missed him, and that is going to force the punt again. It's going to be Deontay Spencer taking it from the 14, brings it back out across the 20 to the 23-yard line, and Denver will start 1st and 10 from that position. They're going to go to the air on first down. It's going to be Noah Fant catching this one on a drag route. He's out across the 40, another flag down, and it's again going to be roughing the passer. So remember, we messed with the sliders coming into the season, and perhaps we overdid it. We'll see how things continue to go, but 3 already is not a very good sign. Later in the drive, 2nd down and 2. Bridgewater hands off to Melvin Gordon. He's going to go off tackle, stays on his feet, has it down to the 28-yard line, and it's another Denver first down. Now looking to throw on 1st and 10, didn't have what he wanted, steps up into the pocket and is going to be sacked by Johnson. It's just a 2-yard loss, and that would be the last play of the first quarter with Denver on top, 7-0. Then it's Bridgewater, fakes the handoff, rolling to his right. On 3rd and 3, just didn't have what he wanted, flung it outside, but that's going to go down as an incompletion out of bounds. And they would have to settle for 3 as McManus is going to hit the 39-yarder there, and it's now 10-0 Denver. After a touchback, it's going to be Jones handing off to Barkley. He's got room to the right side, all the way out across the 35 to the 37-yard line, his best run of the day, and it's going to be 1st and 10 for New York at 37. Now 3rd and 9. Jones from the shotgun looking to throw. Has a man open. It's Barkley to the outside. He has the first down. Simmons was closing quickly but could not get there in time. And it's a first down out around midfield. Barkley's 3rd catch of the ballgame. Now 2nd and 4. Jones to throw again. He hits Shepard over the middle. He's down to the 29-yard line, and the Giants are on the move. It's 1st and 10 now from the 29-yard line. It's going to be a false start before the snap. That'll back him up 5 yards. Makes it 1st and 15 now at the 34. And ensuing play, they fake the handoff. Jones to throw, had a man open. I don't even know if that was supposed to be to Sterling Shepard, but either way, He makes the catch, and that's going to take it down to the 13-yard line. It looked like he might have been throwing that to the tight end, who was also open, but either way, that puts him at 1st and 10 at the 13. Then another false start. It's going to back him up 5 yards, and they're just hurting themselves. Now 3rd and 2. Big play here. He slings it outside, but overshoots his man out of bounds. But the Giants are going to go for it on 4th and 2. Good protection, and he finds his man. Lots of guys in coverage there. They were all around him, but he finds a window, gets it to Evan Engram for the touchdown, and that was big. Going for 6 instead of 3, and that's going to make it now 10-7 as they add the extra point here. 6.5 minutes to play. That was a 12-play, 83-yard drive for the Giants. As we approach halftime, they are on the board, trailing by 3. It's Melvin Gordon on 2nd and 6. He has that out to the 37-yard line, knocked out of bounds. Now 2nd and 7. Bridgewater to throw. He hits Jerry Jeudy. He's got first down yardage, another flag down on the play, and it's going to be another personal foul as we definitely overshot the mark on this one. And if I remember correctly, no, that wasn't it. Never mind. Disregard. Now 2nd and 5. He's throwing and he hits Noah Fant. That ball tipped up in the air and intercepted. A flag down. And here is where I was pretty much going to decide to stop taking these penalties for roughing the passer, but on the interception, that was not going to happen. So we take the flag later in the drive, 3rd and 9, and he's hit as he throws. That falls incomplete, and we have to settle for a field goal, so it's now 13-7. But again, we are done taking those penalties for right now. It's just too fluky. We're not going to take advantage of that. So we'll see that unfold later in the game. Kenny Young almost picked that pass off on 2nd and 7, but it's complete to Kenny Golladay. Good for a first down. Now 3rd and 11 later in the drive. Tons of time for Daniel Jones. He throws and had a man open. Not sure he would have had the first down anyway, but it's incomplete, and they will punt with 1.5 minutes left to go in the first half. So that is it for the half, as the Broncos would just run the ball a couple of times and get us to halftime. They lead 13-7, running the ball very well. The passing game has been limited, but they've done a very good job slowing down the Giants' offense. Now we'll take a look around the league at some of the other games going on. It's the Chiefs hosting the Browns, and they trail 14-10. Baker Mayfield, 2 touchdowns, both of them to Jarvis Landry, so a good start for those two, as the Chiefs in danger of a loss at home on the opening weekend. Then it's New England hosting the Dolphins, and there again we've got the road team on top as we approach halftime. It is 14-3. Tua off to a good start, 10 of 13, 106 yards and a touchdown. Then it's in Washington, the nation's capital. They are hosted the LA Chargers, who beat them 35-28. Justin Herbert, a solid day, 23 of 36, 263 yards and a couple of touchdowns, as Heineke just couldn't get them drawn even there at the end of the game. The Giants trail here in New York. It's 13-7 at the half, as the Broncos looking to pick up a road win to start off the season. They get the ball to start the second half, but on 3rd and 2, the give to Javonte Williams goes nowhere. They are stuffed shy of the first down. No gain on the play, and they will have to punt for the first time this season. So they did a good job getting the ball back for that offense as Daniel Jones prepares to take his team out onto the field. There's the return, though. Nothing there, as he's dropped hard at the 21-yard line. And New York will take over 1st and 10. Now 3rd and 8 on that ensuing possession. There's the throw. It's complete. Out to the 40-yard line. There is a flag, and you guessed it, it's another roughing the passer. So we will adjust that slider after the game, but for right now, it's costing us 15 yards, and the Giants into Denver territory at the 45. 1st and 10. Wide open Saquon Barkley. He's down to about the 19-yard line. A big pickup there, and it's going to be another 1st down and 10 as Daniel Jones starting to settle in through the air, and a good start to the second half as they look to score and either take the lead or at least get this thing closer. There's Barkley again down to the 8-yard line, and it's 1st and goal. Now 2nd and goal. They hand it to Barkley right up the middle. Nobody there, and he just trots right into the end zone. That's going to tie the game, and the extra point would make it a 1-point advantage for the Giants with 7 minutes and 10 seconds left in the half, or in the quarter, rather. And it is good, so it's now 14-13. Denver is trailing for the first time in the game here about halfway through the third quarter. 3rd down and 2 on the next drive. This time they get it with Melvin Gordon going straight up the middle out to the 38-yard line. Now another 3rd and 2 on the ground again. It's Javonte Williams all the way down to the 34-yard line, his best run of the day. And the Broncos in field goal range. Now it's 2nd and 3. He's going to swing it outside to Melvin Gordon. He's got the first down, so they move the chains yet again. Teddy Bridgewater, 13 for 17 at this point. Not racking up a ton of yards, but he's been efficient. And he hands to Javonte Williams a 2nd down and 5 run. He makes a juke and takes it in for his 2nd touchdown of the season, 2nd of his career, and a great opening start. He's a little bit loose with his ball control there at the end of that run. So I'd like to see him clean that up a little bit, but you make a man miss and put the ball in the end zone, it's hard to complain about anything. They go for 2, and they do not get it as McKinney just crushes Melvin Gordon, and they do not convert on the 2-point conversion. Another long drive, 10 plays, 75 yards, and they put up 6 to take the 19-14 lead. 3rd and inches, they hand to Barkley. He goes up the middle and has a first down. So they move the chains, sets up 1st and 10. Now 2nd and 7. It's Barkley again, running to the outside. He is brought down after a short gain. It'll be 3rd and 5, and that is the last play of the 3rd quarter. So after 3 quarters, here it is 19-14. The Giants trail. They swing it to Evan Ingram on 3rd and 5. He tries valiantly to get to that first down marker, but comes up a couple yards short, and the Broncos are going to force the Giants to punt again. Scott shanks this one, and that's going out at the 22-yard line. When you're punting from midfield, you have a chance to pin him deep, and he fails miserably here. Now Bridgewater looking to throw on 1st and 10 on the ensuing drive. He hits Noah Fant on the deep post pattern there, and he is going to take that one all the way down to the 43-yard line. Good job getting the feet down, and it's now going to be 2nd down and 4. He hits Cortland Sutton for the first time in the ball game. That's good for 13 yards down to the 24. They move the chains again. Here on 2nd and 4, it's Melvin Gordon swinging to the outside. Nice run there. He's down to the 13, and it's another first down. Now 2nd and 8. It's Javonte Williams going in motion. They swing it out to him, and he is going to take that one in for another touchdown. His first career catch, and it goes for a touchdown. His 3rd of the game. Have a day, young fellow, and that one good from about 15 yards. And the Giants now trailing by 12 as the extra point is good. It's 26-14, inside 8 minutes to play. That was a 7-play, 79-yard drive. And now Daniel Jones going to have to get it done through the air. Try to screen here, and it's going to be Barkley taking that out to the 34, but that was 3rd down. He's a yard short. And a decision to make here for the Giants on 4th and 1, 7 minutes to go, and you're trailing by 2 scores. They go for it, and they look like they may have got it on the 2nd effort from Barkley there, but there is a flag on the play. It's a block in the back, and they spot this ball just short of the yard to gain anyway. So the Broncos are able to decline and take over on downs. Now 2nd and 8 on the ensuing drive, and Teddy Bridgewater is picked off. That is a huge interception by Xavier McKinney to keep the Giants in this game. A huge mistake by Bridgewater. He thought he had a man open, but McKinney just slipped under it, picks it off. Next play, it's going to be Daniel Jones. Takes that one out to the 42. That ball complete to Evan Ingram. Now 1st and 10 from the 42. He's going to throw, and that one is picked off by Darby, and he is going to take this one all the way back for the touchdown. That is an absolute dagger, as the Broncos now ahead by 3 scores, and they would go on to win this one by the final of 33-21. The Giants would add a garbage time touchdown, but it would not be enough to get them back into this one, as that interception right there was an absolute just deal breaker, and the Giants fall to the Broncos on the opening week of the season. A huge day for Javonte Williams, the rookie, has put himself in contention for Player of the Week honors with the kind of outing that he had. Not like outrageous yardage, but 3 total touchdowns combined. That is pretty hard to complain about, and there you see the overall numbers. The Giants threw the ball well, yardage-wise, a lot of that coming down the stretch when that was the only option that they had. Outside of that, The Broncos pretty much dominating in every facet of the game. We'll take a look at the statistics here as Teddy Bridgewater had a solid outing to start the season. The interception really the only blemish, but he was 17 for 22, 156 yards and a touchdown. Again, the one interception. Jones ended up with 43 attempts, completed 33 of those for 276 yards and a couple of touchdowns, but the big interception late that pretty much ended their hopes of winning. Saquon Barkley had 54 yards on 17 carries, so we limited him pretty well. Javonte Williams, 89 yards and those couple of touchdowns on the ground. Melvin Gordon ran the ball well with 66 yards on 13 carries. Barkley, 13 receptions for 77 yards. So he was getting the ball a lot, just never was really able to break the big ones that they were hoping for to keep this offense moving. Also, a few key penalties throughout the game with some false starts, that sort of thing that just restricted this team a little bit. For the Denver Broncos, no receiving numbers really jump out off the page, but the touchdown for Mr. Williams was obviously another one of note there. A couple of sacks allowed, one for each team, as you'll see here in a second. In terms of tackles, the leading tackler in the ballgame was Bernard McKinney. He had a big day and a bunch of big hits. You saw a few of them, but nonetheless, he led all tacklers with 13. Kenny Young with 11, including one for a loss. He played pretty well for the Denver Broncos, which is going to be key for them this season. The sacks on the day went to Austin Johnson and Malik Reed, one apiece, and then the interceptions were Xavier McKinney for the Giants and Ronald Darby for the Denver Broncos, who took that one 48 yards to the house and pretty much iced this one. Brandon McManus, 2 for 2, including a 39-yarder and a trio of extra points. Graham Gano with 3 extra points himself. Take a look at the punting numbers as J.K. Scott, 4 punts, netting an average of 36.5 yards. Sam Martin, 2 punts and a net of 31. He tried to pooch one late in the game, but it ended up going into the end zone for a touchback. Unfortunately, that crippled his average numbers there. But either way, the Giants come away, or the Broncos come away with a 33-21 here on opening weekend, and that's going to do it for this episode. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, comment below, and we will see y'all next time.
Good evening, friends and neighbors. Or shall I say this afternoon?